so many gamers are upset with the current state of Obsidian, and specifically with Avowed. It just does everything in the most mediocre way possible, and the only people really talking about this game now are content creators, gamers who are pointing and laughing at the really bad player numbers, and these shills. But now we're finding out that the Steam moderators are banning people for, quote, engaging in anti-DEI practices. But before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I totally understand that on Steam forums and Discord servers and just community hubs in general, there needs to be a level of moderation because these platforms all have their own terms of service that you have to follow, and you have to moderate accordingly. You cannot allow someone to be outwardly racist or threatening people's lives. I completely get that. But they are silencing people who are just levying legitimate criticism towards their games, which of course is absurd and not a good look because developers like Matt Hansen had already severely damaged the image of this game. And now you have these developers slash moderators who are going even further because they just cannot accept the fact that people did not like this game. So here's the first one that was posted. It just says the vast majority of the characters in positions of power and authority are female, which is true. Men are all some variation of incompetent, corrupt, or evil, though they can get a pass if they have a unique identity of some description, like racial or sexuality, which is true. That is the more subtle brand of woke storytelling based on intersectional hierarchy. Writers attempted this variety more often, and overt preaching failed. The classic recent example of this type of woke was Starfield. In that game, you could immediately tell a character's intentions and their role in the subplot by their place in that hierarchy. If you encounter a young female Asian leader, then you can 100% depend on her. She is competent, incorruptible, and essentially flawless. She's, a Mary Sue. That's the brand of storytelling now. If you are a woman in a video game, you are just a Mary Sue. If you encounter an older white man, then it doesn't matter how nice he seems. He's either got some huge character flaw that the quest will require you to clean up, or he will simply be revealed to be the villain in the subplot. This is completely on point. And while, sure, you can disagree with this, you could say, oh my gosh, we have games that are coming out that are even worse than Avowed, which I would generally agree with. I still don't think that this game deserves a pass. It's like when I played Avowed, I had said it is not as overtly preachy and in your face as something like Dragon Age the Veilguard, because you don't constantly have characters getting in your face and talking about their sexuality all the time and correcting you with pronoun usage, and there's not like romances that are constantly being thrown your way from all these different characters and their genders. But that does not mean that the storytelling is good or that it still does not have problems. And the ban reason was user was found engaging in anti-DEI practices, which is not tolerated on this forum. The problem with moderators nowadays, and a lot of people, is that if you criticize these types of games, they just call you anti-DEI, they call you a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a bigot, which is absurd because if you have more, Black women in entertainment and you have, 25 shows more than last year that feature a woman of color in the lead, maybe some of those shows are not going to be good and we're going to criticize them. So the more representation you have, the more criticism is technically going to be levied towards these types of people. And you just need to realize that's the natural way of things, right? If you have more representation, that means there's going to be more criticism levied towards people and shows and entertainment with that representation. But these people just want to go around and say you're a terrible human being for criticizing these types of depictions in media. And here's another thread that is from the same exact Reddit, and they were banned for the same exact reason of engaging in anti-DEI. Now, this thread does get a little bit political, but they don't specify that, oh, hey, you guys took the political discussion a bit too far for this forum, just find somewhere else to discuss this. No, banned for the same exact reason. I feel like they're just going down the forum list, and any thread that uses the word word woke or political ideology or anything that has to do with a narrative being pushed in a game. They're just clicking the button and banning you, and then they're using the reason of engaging in anti-DEI. They talk about how, oh, so then there's not a single person who would ever grow out of it or detransition because they are trans, right? So why are there so many detransition stories? And yes, they do talk about like political ideologies in video games, and I have no issue admitting to something when it's clearly a political message, even if it's from my side. And then they all got banned, and gamers are talking about this, and they're really not happy with the fact that, of course, they are being silenced across these different platforms because a few developers or moderators are really just taking all of this backlash too personally. Imagine being an Avowed dev. They've got about 14 players and still think they can afford to ban people. I almost respect that kind of commitment to a lost cause. Yeah, I mean, I totally and completely agree. It's weird in a way that I want to praise them for just doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down. And really, all they're doing is pushing away the few players that they have in game, because the all-time peak at release 14 days ago was not particularly positive. It was 19,198. And of course, there are people out there who are saying, oh, well, it was on Game Pass day one, and I'm sure it did better on that platform. And true, I'm sure that a lot of people didn't monetarily support it and just downloaded it through Game Pass. But we know that developers do not really make money off of Game Pass, and companies still need to sell individual copies of their game. Like Microsoft still wants to bring in millions and millions of new subscriptions every single year, and a game's success is really judged by how many new subscriptions are actually brought in from a game, and they haven't announced anything when it comes to Avowed. So I don't think that it was the smashing success that they probably expected it to be, because you know that studios love to boast when their game is doing exceedingly well. There are also plenty of other games that have launched day one on Game Pass that have done perfectly fine on Steam, like Starfield, for example. I mean, Starfield is a game that I also did not love, and I didn't think was, the best experience I've ever had. But look at what's going on with Starfield. 1.5 years ago, 330,000 people all-time peak. Day one Game Pass. Right now it's got 5,305 players in game, and Avowed is at 6,383. So that's really not that much of a difference either. We're talking 15 days versus a year and a half. So yes, I can't say I'm particularly shocked that this is happening right now with the subreddit, because they cannot seem to really understand why we don't like the game. And whenever we do give them genuine, honest, level-headed feedback, they still go on to call us ists and phobes and just generally terrible people. And right now it seems that their moderators are nuking the Steam discussions tab. They don't want people discussing this game in a way that they have deemed negative. And well, unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like these people are really trying to take our feedback into consideration, which is just the way that the current video game industry is going, the modern video game industry is going. But it is still really disappointing to see this happening constantly. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.